This is China in 1979, a nation still scarred by famine, poverty, and political upheaval. Most people lived on less than $2 a day. Global trade, almost none. This is China today, the world's second largest economy, an economic powerhouse, and the factory of the world. What happened there? In 1980, China's GDP was about 191 billion. By 2023, it had grown to over $17.5 trillion, a 90-fold increase in just over 40 years. Not long ago, China was still a very poor country. Food was scarce, famine was a common threat. The nation was isolated and struggling. But everything changed in the early 1980s. A wave of political and economic reforms sparked something the world had never seen and likely will never see again. This video will help you understand how did a struggling nation like China in the 1970s become a global economic powerhouse in just a few decades. In 1949, when the Communist Party took power, China was still in very bad shape. Decades of war had destroyed roads, factories, and farms. Prices spiraled out of control, rising 13,000% a year. And much of the nation's gold reserves fled with the old government to Taiwan. The early 1950s saw relentless campaigns aimed at reshaping the country. Land reform, anti-counter-revolutionary purges, and relentless pressure to transition from capitalism to socialism. Intellectuals were distrusted and laws were scarce. Ideological purity, not legal structure, dominated the society. But in 1958, China embarked on its most disastrous experiment yet, the Great Leap Forward. Chairman Mao dreamed of rapid industrialization, replacing farms with vast communal factories. The results were catastrophic. Farms collapsed, food production plummeted, and famine gripped the nation. Between 15 to 55 million lives were lost, the largest man-made famine in human history. And yet, the chaos didn't end there. In 1966, Mao unleashed the Cultural Revolution, urging youth to challenge authority, destroy tradition, and hunt down those seen as enemies of socialism. The Red Guards swept through China, dismantling local governments, institutions, and lives. Law and order gave way to radicalism, violence, and deep divisions. This was the darkness China endured before change could finally come. Meet Deng Xiaoping, the man who changed China forever. After Mao Zedong passed away in 1976, Deng stepped up, and he had a bold idea: economic reform. Deng Xiaoping believed that ideology shouldn't stand in the way of progress. As he famously put it doesn't matter if the cat is black or white as long as it catches mice. In other words, results matter more than politics. Deng got practical, and one of his biggest light bulb moments came in 1978 when he visited Singapore. What he saw blew his mind. Here was a tiny island nation, once poorer than parts of China, now booming. Clean streets, disciplined government, a thriving economy, all led by Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew. Singapore had embraced global trade and market principles without giving up strong state control, then realized if Singapore could do it, why not China? Back home from his eye-opening visit to Singapore, Deng Xiaoping got to work. He tossed out Mao's rigid plans and introduced something new: socialism with Chinese characteristics. That meant giving people a little bit more freedom to work, sell, and earn. In the countryside, Deng broke up collective farms and gave land back to families. Suddenly, farmers could grow what they wanted and keep the profits. Productivity soared, and labor shifted out of farming into small rural businesses. At the same time, Deng gave factories more autonomy. Managers could now set goals, pay bonuses, even fire bad workers. He legalized private business and let entrepreneurs rise, which made China's economy more flexible and competitive. Then came the big move, opening up to the world. Foreign companies were invited in, bringing money, technology, and global know-how. Export zones along the coast became engines of growth. It wasn't perfect. Price reforms were slow, inflation remained a risk, and the state still held power, but dent had lit the fuse. And China's economic transformation was officially underway. In 2001, China joined the World Trade Organization, and everything started to change. This was not just a trade deal, it was China stepping boldly onto the global economic stage at exactly the right moment. Globalization was taking off around the world, trade barriers were falling, supply chains stretching globally, and technology connecting markets like never before. China seized this opportunity, quickly becoming the world's manufacturing powerhouse. Factories sprung up overnight, pumping out everything from smartphones to clothing, and the Made in China labels filled store shelves across the globe. Globalization didn't just boost China's economy, it supercharged it. In just 2 decades, China's GDP exploded nearly tenfold, transforming it from an economic backwater to a global giant. But the most remarkable achievement? Over 800 million people were lifted out of extreme poverty, the fastest and the largest poverty reduction in human history. This economic boom fueled massive infrastructure projects. China built tens of thousands of miles of high-speed railways, modern airports, and some of the world's tallest skyscrapers. Cities that barely existed a generation ago now rival New York or London. However, China's rise also reshaped its relationship with the West. While Western countries eagerly bought Chinese goods, tensions rose over trade imbalances, intellectual property, and strategic competition. Still, economic ties deepened as company, capital, and culture crossed borders. Ultimately, China's economic journey is a testament to how interconnected the world has become, and how quickly global forces can reshape the fate of the nation. Today, China's economy isn't just big, it's gigantic. China's GDP is now the second largest on Earth, just behind the US, and bigger than Japan, Germany, and the UK combined. If you have ever wondered who makes your smartphone, shoes, or even your coffee mug, chances are it's made in China, as the country produces nearly 30% of everything manufactured worldwide. And it's not just about making stuff. China built an incredible 26,000 miles of high-speed railway, more than the rest of the world combined. But China is not just a factory anymore, it's shifting gears as we speak. China is investing big in the future. Think self-driving cars, solar panels, and AI. Yep, China is betting on brainpower as its next engine of growth. However, even giants have growing pains. China faces real challenges now. Its population is aging rapidly, while youth unemployment soars. Economic growth, once explosive, is slowing down, and international relations, they are very complicated at this moment. Trade wars with the US, pressure for political reforms, and global tensions all cloud China's future. So yes, China's path forward isn't crystal clear, but remember, this is the same country that pulled off the biggest economic miracle in human history. No matter what comes next, one thing's for sure, China's story is far from over, and it will continue shaping the world in ways we have never imagined. China's journey from poverty and chaos to prosperity and global influence is nothing short of astonishing. In just a few decades, it rose from famine and isolation to become a global powerhouse, shaping the world economy in ways we never imagined. Sure, today's challenges are tough. Aging population, economic slowdowns, tense international relations. But remember, this is the same nation that achieved history's greatest economic miracle. Whatever the future holds, China's remarkable rise reminds us all, when a nation dreams big, takes bold steps, and adapts relentlessly, nothing is impossible.